Let's make sure that we're live. I'm waiting to see this on the other page.
Oh, I do.
Yep, looks like we're live. Okay, cool. So let's get this thing started. Hello, everybody. My name is Kurt Wismer. I'm the marketing director for WEBIT, the Wisconsin Educators of Business and Information Technology, formerly known as WBEA. Today we're going to be talking about keyboarding in the classroom. We've got a talented group of business and information technology educators, educational technology coaches, and our representative from DPI with us today to talk about the importance of keyboarding in the classrooms, both elementary and middle school, possibly some high school conversations as well. We'll talk about tips and tricks about what we're doing in class and share some best practices. We will be talking about tools of what's happening and tools that we're using in the classroom, and then we'll also be talking about gamification of keyboarding. Just a reminder to everybody that this is being broadcasted live and shared on YouTube. This broadcast will be available later for viewing at a later time, and you can watch those at webitonline.org. Again, that's webitonline.org. If you have any questions you'd like us to ask during the broadcast, please post them on the event page that was sent out on Google Plus for this, and we'll do our best to answer those questions as they pop up. So let's get started. So we'll start with introductions. I suppose I can get started first. My name is Kurt Wismer. Like I said, I teach at North Fond du Lac. This is my first year at North Fond du Lac. I think this is my 13th or 14th year teaching. From marketing to web design. I've got a school store and a video production lab that we run. 6th grade tech licks, 6th grade keyboarding, 8th grade entrepreneurship, and a whole gamut of other classes. So like the typical business and information technology teacher, every hour is different. Specifically with keyboarding, I teach a 6th grade keyboarding for the middle school class. So we've got a joined high school and middle school, so the 6th graders just come up to me, to my lab, and I see those 6th graders for a 12-week rotation of 4 days a week at 50 minutes, well, 5 days a week, modified block, 50-minute periods. So we're basically able to get through the entire alphabet and the numbers in those 12 weeks, and that's about it. So I'll go on next. Danielle, can you go next?
Yes. I'm Danielle Stibbs, Almond Bancroft Schools. This is my 3rd year teaching and my 3rd year here. The first year we had keyboarding at the 7th grade only, and now it is in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grades only. I teach everything from yearbook, entrepreneurship, personal finance, computer apps, accounting, college accounting. I'm the FBLA advisor, all over the place as well. I spend 1 hour of my day, or 43 minutes, teaching elementary keyboarding. We are all in one building, so I go down to their lab and have them for the 3rd and 4th graders this year was every day for a quarter for 17 minutes and 20 minutes, respectively. And the 5th graders I will have for 40 minutes every day for this quarter and next quarter as well. 2 different classes.
Wonderful. Dave, you're up next.
Sure. I'm Dave Thomas, your Business and Information Technology Education Consultant with the Department of Public Instruction, and just want to extend appreciation out to the Wisconsin Educators of Business and Information Technology for hosting this event and bringing a group of great content leaders together around a rich and dynamic conversation today. Looking forward to this conversation.
Great. Thanks, Dave. Josh, you're up.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Josh Gauthier. Currently, I am a technology training specialist in the Pierce School District. But formerly, for the past 3 years, I was a business education teacher in Denmark, Wisconsin, and I taught primarily middle school, grades 6 through 8, but last year I also had the opportunity to teach keyboarding for grades 3, 4, and 5, and taught some classes at the high school as well, like web design, investing, another class called personal planning, which is like a careers class. So I got a lot of different experiences. In 6th grade was our keyboarding class at the middle school. I also taught computer apps, an exploring programming class, and a careers type class for 8th grade too.
Excellent. Thanks, Josh. Kelly.
Hi, I'm Kelly Walpley, and I teach at the Brown Deer School District. I've been here for 14 years, and I began as a business ed teacher teaching computer apps, keyboarding, intro to business, things like that. And in the last 13 years, it has evolved into keyboarding starting at the 2nd grade level, which is our first year this year. And I teach 2nd grade through 6th grade year-round. I see each student, each class, once a week for a half hour. And then I also teach personal finance at the 8th grade level at the middle school. So I'm pretty much a dedicated keyboarding teacher, which I'm pretty lucky that our district has afforded us that. 2nd grade is a challenge, though.
Indeed, I would agree.
Oh, yeah.
And Randy, you're up.
I am Randy Stanley. I've been teaching for 16 years here in the Elk Mound School District, and last year was my first year teaching over at the middle school. And I teach 6th, 7th, and 8th over there, and I get the 6th graders for a full 45 minutes for about a 7 to 8 week course. And my 8th grade and my 9th, or my 7th and my 8th graders, I get them for 45 minutes too, but we do computer apps, but I do have them typing for at least 8 minutes a day as well. And then I come over here to the high school and I have personal finance. I have Microsoft Office 1 and 2 that's articulated with the technical college, as well as desktop marketing and entrepreneurship, and starting a new college and career class also next year.
Wonderful. Thanks, Randy. Okay, so let's get started then. I guess to get started, we're going to talk a little bit about some of our best practices and tips and tricks that we use in the class. And then thereafter, we'll talk a little bit about the tools that we use and some of the other cool websites that we probably couldn't do this without. So with tips and tricks, does anybody want to get started on that? And best practices? Any volunteers? Otherwise, I'm just going to call on you.
Well, I can start. Just in general, on the main page, I have posted a link to my website. I have 2 websites. One is just for teachers of keyboarding, and I've put together all kinds of information about my class. Everything from what I send out to parents to just repeating what grade levels I teach and how much time I spend with them, my computer lab expectations. My intention is to put some videos on there, one being a demonstration of my course. I have my lessons, assessments, incentives, and other activities on there. I guess the biggest practice for me, of one that I've found that works really well, is incentives by the use of stickers. Little kids and their stickers. So 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, I have each student has a chart where they keep track of how many stickers they have, and they put them on there, and it changes by the theme of the classroom each year. Last year we had race cars and we were speedy typers, and this year we just are doing like frogs, and we have ponds and whatnot that we're trying to collect stickers on. And I walk around the room repeatedly, I don't ever sit down in that class, to check on good technique and make sure that they're following up with that. I just started on Monday with my 5th graders, and they've been through this before, but that's one big thing that we're working on, is getting them back in the habit of sitting up straight and their wrists not resting on the countertop and such. And those stickers can change that technique very quickly. So my incentives of earning stickers, and once their tracker is complete, it goes up on the wall. That peer recognition goes a long way. So that's one thing that I've integrated and seen that it does wonders.
Danielle, do you use a book?
Um,
What other resources you use?
well, the resources that I use come from Typing Time. Yes, it's a Southwest book, Typing Time,
Okay.
that I've used to create these pieces. They're not, they follow the outline of the class, like the order in which that the keys are taught, but I don't, it's not exactly. I mix it up. But otherwise, I just found that the books were more time-consuming than I wanted them to be, of the kids finding the right page, and all the other things that are on the book. I just found it really distracting, especially for the third graders. So I eliminated that and just did my paper lessons. And they're reused from class to class. So one day maybe they'll be laminated.
All in good time.
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. What I do, I use Danielle's all the time. I love her resources. What I did do is I had some of my students recreate them in Google Docs, and so I do everything through Google Classroom. And so I attach one of her creative activities on through Google Classroom, and so the students have to complete one of her assignments. I know she usually does them as homework, but I do them embedded in my class, so it breaks up the class a little bit instead of a full 45 minutes of typing. But we do one of her fun activities, and then we go right into Typing Web, or now they changed it to typing.com, and then we finish off the class in there as well. But one thing that I also do, and I posted it on the site, was I had the kids visit a particular site, and it will go over like feet flat, back straight, fingers on the homework keys, eyes up, curved, and all that. And then I have them write a letter to a friend explaining the proper technique in hopes of, it's nice to actually hear from their point of view why it's important. So I do have that. I have the kids do as well.
Cool. I like that.
I do too.
Yeah. So then, Randy, you do not use a book then, you said?
I do not use a book. All typing. I was on Type to Learn 4. Wasn't the best one, I didn't feel, for reports and such. And so this is the first year I just started doing Typing Web or typing.com. And I just started looking at my data, and it's so nice to see. You can tell if a child had been typing for 1 minute to 8 minutes, and you can see the speed and the errors, and pretty pleased with what typing.com has to offer.
And do you pay for it, or do you just use the free version?
Just the free version.
Because I know paying for it removes the ads. Does it do anything else? I don't
know. I know our district paid a lot for that Type to Learn 4, and since I'm not really using that right now, I'm sure I'm not going to get any other funding on it. But Typing Web is, I love it's so much easier to see those reports. So.
I have in my school, because we moved from 7th grade to 3rd, 4th, and 5th, there were 2 grades that were entirely skipped of keyboarding that didn't receive any. And I've been working with the English teacher in the middle school, and once a week they go on to Typing Web or Typing and practice on there. So and she uses that, the tracking feature, to see how much time they're actually spending on it. And kids are able to, during their RTI time, to come into my lab and get caught up with that if they need more time.
We tried Type to Learn, and the kids actually didn't prefer it. And because it cost so much money, I was happy to just use the free websites. And the one that my kids, especially at the 4th, 5th grade level, like, is Doorway Online.
Oh yeah, I was using that today.
Yeah, they really like that one. My 2nd graders aren't near ready to do any software, so we basically do the drilling. My 5th and 6th graders, we do a lot in Google Docs, as far as I will post the assignment, the typing assignment in a Google Doc in a outline, and then they will take it from there. But as far as typing goes, we use Typing Club or Typing Web. But everything's free. We don't use a textbook. I've never had a textbook in 14 years. And that's okay. I've been able to get by without it. There are so many resources out there that it wasn't worth the investment. I'd rather take advantage of the free websites. Sometimes I wish we would buy one, but we bought Type to Learn, and I'm not real happy that we did. It was a lot of money, so.
If it's free, you can just say, oh, it was free.
and this way, I've tried so many different sites. There are millions of sites out there. It's all a matter of what gives you the best results and what helps you record the best results and what gives the best feedback to the kids.
Yes. I am on my website in the process of creating some documents that would just be a basic table, gathering resources and just giving descriptions of what they're able to do. I'm not to the point of publishing, but I am working on a list.
Wonderful.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Kelly.
Well, going back to the incentives, I have something called Keyboarding Kudos. And it's something like posting on the board, but I have these laminated kudo things that I give out to the students. And I also do classroom kudos because they tend to work together as a class better to be on task, have the right technique, and then they're very proud of themselves when it's announced every week on the announcements every Monday what class got the keyboarding kudos and things like that. That's about it.
So you do one class per week earns it?
I do one classroom kudo, but then I do individual kudos during the week, and then they gather a certain number of kudos to cash them in for what we have called Freddy Feathers. It's all a game, but they like it. It's a lot of work though, but that's okay.
Awesome. Josh, can you talk a little bit about what you did?
Sure, yeah. At the middle school, about the 6th grade, one of the things I found really successful that seemed to motivate a good amount of the students was I would do a keyboarding top 10, and I would always have that posted on the board, and then we would do timings pretty regularly and have them try and get the highest net speed per minute so I would have their speed and then their errors and then their net, and then I would make a top 10. And that was really motivating for the top students. I found it was even more successful at the elementary schools that they competed as a class. So I met with the elementary kids one day a week for 30 minutes. So it wasn't a whole lot of time, and by the time you get 3rd graders, 25 3rd graders into a room, signed in, and then signed out, you've pretty much lost 10 minutes on the end, so you have 20 minutes there. So we really focused on kind of a team approach. So I always kind of phrased it, especially with the 4th graders, like you're trying as a class to have a higher average speed than the 5th graders. And they were really motivated by that. And I actually had 3 4th grade classes that were higher than all but one of the 5th grade classes. And it was just a fun competition the whole year that they were always trying to do it. And so when we had a day where we were working on timings, like they were really focused and doing their best and put in a lot of effort throughout the other times we met. So I found that to be pretty successful.
Yeah, on that note, I assigned, because I do assessments for when the 3rd and 4th graders learn 1 letter a day, and we do assessments. We'll learn 4 keys and then do a review and a timing on that review day. And I assigned different speeds, different colors, and I would post on the wall what students earn, not what color each student earned, but how many students earned green, how many people yellow, orange, and red, and how many were still in the black. And every week we saw their progression of how they did. And if they went backwards, they would get discouraged until I reminded them, hey, we just learned new keys. It gets harder each time. So if we're not all of a sudden all green, that's okay. But I know that the elementary teachers were really excited when I started to do that because they were really encouraged at how much they were improving. And because the elementary lab, I'm only in there 1 hour of the day, and it's the rest of the students are in there, the more stuff I put on the walls for keyboarding and showing off, the more excited the younger kids get to take keyboarding in 3rd grade. And I know my 5th graders, because they're taking it 3rd and 4th quarters, they were waiting all year long. Every time I walked through the lunchroom and I saw them, they're like, oh, when do we get to have keyboarding? When do we get to have it? So the more publicity I brought my class, the more excited they were. So, and then I do a leaderboard, but I just do it at their final timing, and they have a chance to knock off last year's students on that final timing.
That's very cool.
Yeah. Some of the things that I do use a book. This is my first year teaching keyboarding since 2001-ish. I had always been in the district where that was taught by somebody else, but now that I'm new in North Fond du Lac, I do have this book that we use because it's here, and I was picking up with it. So we'll piece through that, some of those drills. The way that I distribute the content in my classes, I use, like Randy said, I use Google Classroom. And once a week I create a Google Doc that I share with the kids in Classroom, and that's their drill page for the week of. And I'll have the dates listed out there, and then they literally will put their drills on under each date, and they'll go through that. And then I'll go back and I can leave comments on them, make sure that they go back and fix errors that they did wrong. So just the editing features along and the commenting features in Google Docs is really great, because then they know, like I may be up at the front of the podium when they're doing things, but then all of a sudden they'll see me drop in on their Google Doc, and oh, Mr. Wismer's there. I'll get to work quick to make sure that that I know that they know that they're on task, even if I'm not walking around for that instance. And then I'm really on them about, okay, great, you can type 28 words a minute or whatever the case may be, but you've got a lot of errors, so those are counting against you. Every Friday we do timings, and like Danielle said, we've got a little theme with that because the kids in my class love nitrotype.com. We've got race cars. I've got a race car track set up in the front of my classroom on the wall, and each of the kid on the first week, we give them a race car and they color it, put their names on it, and then we have them all laminated. So then they'll move them across the racetrack, and the racetrack goes from 0 to 60. And within my 6th grade class, I've got kids anywhere in the 15s to 20s, because we just got started a little while ago with this group, and I've got some kids up in the 40s-ish. So they get to see that, and every Friday they move their race car along the track, and they really like that.
Is it discouraging at all for the lower students?
That's actually, I've got that written down, one of the things I want to talk about and ask you guys about. Of the couple of kids that I've had that are really lower in abilities, I haven't had them overly discouraged. It's more for them thus far, from what I've seen, they're like, oh, I got to get there, oh, I got to get there. And it was really compelling, because I also, part of my SLOs for my educator effectiveness is improvement on the keyboarding skills for the kids. So I'm tracking all their timings, and I've got it on a Google spreadsheet, and then I'm calculating those values out by improvements over the course of the 12 weeks. Then I've also got it charted. So those charts during the timing days, I'll bring up that live table as a bar chart on the board, and the kids can see as they'll come and say, Mr. Wismer, I just did a timing and I got 32 words a minute. That's awesome. You increased by 2 words or 3 words a minute from last time. I'll quick put it in, and it'll go live on the table on the board, and we get really excited about seeing that. But then I also track it by percent increase or percent improved. So I've got, like last semester, I had a kid that his growth words a minute was, or his net words a minute was about 7 or 8 at the beginning, but I got him up to about 23 or 24 by the end of the 12 weeks. By percentage, he was huge. He had like, I celebrate the percent increase because he had like a 700% increase. So that's where I kind of play the trick on him a little bit, and I say, yeah, you're not at 30 words a minute where you need to be. Like, there's other kids in there that are like 45 words a minute or 50 words a minute, but you have the most improved by percent, and they just see that big number of, I increased by 800%, holy cow. And then they're good.
I always try to make a...
Go ahead.
I always try to make a big deal about that, that improvement part of it, because that was really a struggle. Is the kids in the lower end would look at the top 10 and they would be like, ugh, there's no way I'm ever getting up there. But when we would go through and we talk about, who's improved, and I use the percentage thing too as well, then it almost flips the entire thing, because a lot of times there were students who were really fast to begin with, and they improved by a little bit and they stay on top because they were so far ahead. But then the kids that weren't as fast have more to improve on, and they end up kind of flipping the leaderboard when we look at the percentage increase, and that's always been a really bright spot for those kids.
Kurt, I'm kind of curious. Sorry. How did you get that student to improve 700%? What methods did you use?
Daily drills. So out of the book, we would go through and let's say we're going to do the M and the X today. We'd go through and do those drills, and then we do a handful more drills. I'd piece in nitro type or typing web. We'd do other little games in between there, and then just constant reinforcement with those kids and making sure that they're, we use covers on certain of the drills and such, and he just, over time, he got there, and it was little baby steps along the way.
And did you use keyboard covers?
We do use keyboard covers, yeah. I'll use them on review days, and I'll use them on randomly here and there. Probably a couple times a week we'll use them.
I do them every single day. Once we do home row, the covers are on every day, every game, every anything. If they can't play the game without looking, they can't play that game.
What kind of covers do you use?
I'm looking for the link right now, but it is like an actual cover that goes over the top.
Box cover?
It's a plastic cover. We purchased them, I believe they were $10 a piece, but they are going to last a long time.
Yep. I know which ones you're talking about. Those
I did try that black cover with a smaller age group. They can see right underneath it. That's the only problem I ran into.
Well, even with my third graders, I use them, and I don't have too much of a problem. We do in my class, and I have signs on my website for this too, but we are not chicken zombies or T-Rexes. And I remind them every day that we are not. And if they are too far back away from the keyboard, they look like a zombie. And if they're too close, and they can usually see underneath if they're doing the zombie thing, if they are too close and trying to peek over the top, they look like a T-Rex. And then chickens is more so those that put their elbows out to the side too, more than the pecking so much. But yep, those signs are all over my classroom, and the kids think that they're just so funny.
We do use the orange speed skins, if anybody else has tried those.
I have used them, and I like them.
The kids don't like them, and they don't wear that well for the expense, but I give them an option of either taping paper over the keyboard or using the orange one, but they have to use one or the other.
My problem with the orange one is that they're still looking down. My kids, when I had for the 7th grade, they were constantly looking down, and then thankfully we got all new computers in our school, and the skins didn't fit anymore. So that was my excuse of like, hey, we need to get new ones. These ones don't fit. So, but the improvement that I saw with the skins versus using these covers is such a drastic difference. They are much better with the covers.
And I just created a cover with the cardboard box, the paper boxes, and I just cut out and then just put that on. And I have a couple, obviously, 8th graders that are pretty big, and so I've been lucky to find different size box covers. And so, because I know the kids don't like having their hands hit that box at times, so we do have blue masks, but they don't fit because they don't fit that particular keyboard, so they're a little loose. And so we try and make do with it. They have to, at least when I do the timings, they have to have at least that blue mask on or that cover on it as well. But I just want to rewind for a second. all of you guys with the leaderboards, that sounds like such a great idea, but I know our administrator has already shut it down because they don't want to bring attention to those that are hurting or that are down low. And so I create my own chart, so each one has their own individual chart so they can see personal growth, and I talk about the personal growth rather than sharing it amongst everyone. But
well, my leaderboards in that, and that's the reason why my leaderboards are the top 5.
okay.
And that they can stay up there for as many years until somebody else knocks them down in that same grade level. But I do then the colors, and when I give them back following the timing after I've gone through, because mine are just paper, and I've gone through and I've tallied them, and I give them back to the kids, I will announce anyone that's what I consider green. So they've already hit the DPI goal. Those students I announce by name. And any other student who is bumped up in color, I will announce. I won't say whether they went from the lowest color to the second lowest color. I just say, these are the students that jumped up in color. And we get a chance to celebrate them. So though they're not the highest, they are the ones that are improving.
Okay.
I would concur. Yeah, I mean, I only put the top 10 on the board for that particular time, so not everybody's speed was available for everybody else to see. And then, yeah, I was definitely with those other students, just making sure to really celebrate when they would increase, even if it was by 1 word a minute, just to let them feel good about that. Because, like with doing the percentage thing, if a kid is really, not that fast and they're typing 5 words a minute and they improve by 1 word, like that's a big deal. Like if you look at percentage-wise, that's a 20% jump. And you make a big deal about that. And I think that was just really helpful overall in helping the students who might have been on the lower end kind of stick with it.
Hey, Dave, we wanted to make sure we give you some time. Is there anything you want to jump in on? I know you're here for support as well.
Yep. Yeah, it's certainly a lot of great discussion and dynamic ways that you approach your student needs. I know we're in the age where we talk about student outcomes in the classroom and the practices, and each of you have really highlighted a number of ways that you're approaching your profession and ways that certainly tie into educator effectiveness conversations as those integrate into all discussions these days, it seems to be. Certainly looking at some of the best practices, the basis of a lot of discussion with curriculum instruction folks and administration is around both the standards that our schools are trying to address, as well as some of the computer assessments that are preparing our students for, and we're seeing a lot of that assessment happening throughout the year. Whether it's the business and IT standards, specifically referencing keyboarding and business communications and information technology, or the Common Core standards, which specifically address keyboarding instruction in grades 3 through 6 as part of the writing standard around production and distribution of writing. Those connections back to our academic standards are, again, some of the best practices to make sure you're communicating around what you're doing as far as your student success and relating that back to the goals of your school. Again, around computer-based assessments, I just posted on the page around Smarter Balanced Assessment, and specifically some of the frequently asked questions that are out there around keyboarding instruction and why that keyboarding instruction is relevant around the Smarter Balanced Assessment. So there are some good frequently asked questions that you can take a look at there, and specifically addresses where in that Smarter Balanced Assessment test the students need those keyboarding skills. So everything that you're doing around best practices, again, ways that you're working towards student growth, really start to be highlighted as we hear about a student that can, again, increase by 500% or even increase their speed by 20%. That's going to increase their productivity, both academically as well as the outcomes of our schools and around some of the assessments that they're using to, again, showcase the skills and abilities of students academically. So, again, making sure that, you're able to reference the standards, the assessments, and really it's advocacy for your programs and your success with your students.
Let's talk a little bit about some of our favorite tools or sites and stuff that we use. I know that we posted a bunch of them on the Google Plus page for the event, but are there, 1 or 2 that you guys would say that you can't live without?
The doorway text type I use a lot. I have some students that this last quarter I had a 4th grader who wasn't at our school last year, and he was very far behind. So I put him on doorway text type instead of our regular lessons, and to get him just caught up, he can kind of do his own thing while the rest of us are getting in the habit or going through my own program. So on every few days I would have him join us again. For timing days and such, I would bring him back in with us, but otherwise I utilize that site a lot.
Awesome. I'm going to post it on the page right now.
With the younger kids, I use Typing Club. So for grades 3 through 5, we all use Typing Club, and it was just super simple. It's clean. You know, they can use a Google account to log in so they can track their own progress and save what they're doing. You know, I just went with the free account, and that was fine. I whenever we did timings, I would go around and record and do that kind of thing, and it helped me stay and interact with them and really be on it. And they really liked it, and I thought it was super beneficial to use that with those grades.
I use speedtypingonline.com, and I use it with the 6th grade, 7th, and 8th grade. It's nice that you could, I was doing my SLO. I did that one sentence that has 26 letters on it, and you can go ahead and do custom, and then I had the kids custom it, and then I did a Google form, and then they sent me their speeds and their accuracy each day, and then I clocked that for my SLO. But for this one, it's nice because even without the custom, you can do song lyrics, and it's nice to even have that song maybe play in the background a little bit sometimes quietly, yet the kids get really excited about it, and it just, so you can do random things, even random facts are kind of fun to do on there too, the kids like, and so, and there's random easy to type words and sight words on there as well.
That's funny that you brought up the song lyrics on it, because I was thinking in my head, I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if we could play some, you know, I don't know, maybe something, I was trying to figure out something very PC, but I was thinking, boy, it'd be really cool if we could do something like some fun rap songs or some other things that the kids could type to that really challenge their speeds, but couldn't find anything that was appropriate for kids.
Well, I did the What Does the Fox Say, but that's kind of old now. The kids don't like that one. But I also do like the Lego, that Lego song.
Oh, yeah.
Everything is awesome.
Yeah, so it's like that one. And then there was another one too. You just ask the kids what's a popular song, and they usually let you know.
Perfect. Kelly, any ones you love?
Actually, Doorway is the one that I use a lot, and there aren't any more that you guys haven't already mentioned. I have on my website, going along with what David was talking about for the Smarter Balanced. Our special reading specialist is going to some meetings, CISA meetings periodically, and she brought me a couple really good keyboarding resources that I put on my website, and it lists per grade level, kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade, and then 3 through 5, different websites that will help them with the certain skills they're going to need for the Smarter Balanced. And I gave credit. I didn't do it. I gave credit to the people that did it, Dave. Just saying.
Thank you. Yeah, there are some resources that I do have a link that's on the page as well around elementary keyboarding, and a post through Department of Public Instruction, and I believe there's a reference there. But I will also specifically try to pull up some of the Smarter Balanced information, because I believe that was shared out last fall in particular with some of the folks at some of the professional development experiences.
Excellent. Josh, how about you?
Well, in addition to Typing Club, I would say the other one that I used for a long time, and even though it occasionally has a pop-up, and I know there's lots of ads, but freetypinggame.net is kind of the old standby I used for a while. And one of the main reasons I liked it is it has the games, But for the younger grades, when I used Typing Club, and there wasn't really a timings test in Typing Club, then I could just take them out to freetypinggame.net and get them into timings on there. So that was an old go-to.
Excellent. I would have to agree with everything you guys said, but the only other one that we use all the time, which I mentioned before, is NitroType. The kids use that. They'll do their drills, and then let's say it takes the average kid 4 minutes to do this line of, these lines of drills, but I may give them 7 minutes. So then I'll say, when you're done, go to Typing Web or NitroType, and they'll usually all go to NitroType and race their neighbors and stuff. And what I like about NitroType is that we set up an entire rows. 1 day a week, I've got, because we're modified block, I'll have my kids for 90 minutes. 90 minutes of keyboarding is a long time.
Yeah.
So to bust it up, we'll do rock, paper, scissors tournaments halfway through. We did thumbs up, 7 up, just basically something to get them standing and doing something, because the 6th graders, they can't sit that long.
Right.
But then we also do fun things, and one of the things we'll do is, because my computers are all in rows of 4, we'll set up races by row in NitroType, because you can have 4 people in a race, and everybody in that row will race. And the winner of that row will go to like a qualifying heat and that sort of thing. And then just to make it fun, and they always, Mr. Wismer, can you race as well? Okay. And they're all doing 30, 40, and then I hit like 70, and they're like, what? So they really enjoy that, and they want to get to the round where they can race me, just because they think it's a hoot. And my whole goal in the class, especially with keyboarding with that length, is, yeah, it's keyboarding and they need to get those things, but we want to make sure that they have a good time as well, because
they want to like keyboarding.
Yeah, you want them to like keyboarding. You don't want to turn it into a chore, and you don't want them to hate it, because then they're going to not do the procedures and stuff. And I've had a lot of kids that have said, Mr. Wismer, I thought this class was going to suck, but it's actually pretty cool. Awesome.
Now, there's one way I use NitroType is for the student that thinks that they don't need to type using the right technique, and so I challenge them. And I say, okay, you are going to type using your method, and I'll race you in NitroType. And it really humbles them, because he may do 35 words a minute with his technique, but then when I can, double that with the right technique, it brings him down a couple notches.
Yep.
If I can share a fun experience, kind of take me back to my classroom days. March Madness is certainly around the corner, and just the idea of putting students in your class is always kind of that fun time to build and represent the team in the bracket up against somebody else to see if they advance. So it's a little bit of a pairing of one student against another student, but that bracket then could be utilized in a class period or continued over a number of weeks, and again showcasing some of the students who sometimes pull off the upset against a student that maybe can't handle the pressure moment when they're up against another student. And so
that's a cool idea. I like that.
I use NitroType, but I only use it usually as a reward. I have a chatty 7th grade class, and so I do it as, I have a potato head. Sometimes I think it's a little childish, but it actually works fine. I have a potato head, and every time they're good for about every 10 minutes, and they're quiet, and we can accomplish everything, they get a piece. Somebody comes up and decorates it, and then once the whole potato head is filled, then they get to have their NitroType day.
Wow, clever. All these good ideas. Just because I want to make sure that we allocate a little bit of time to this. Josh, can you talk about how you gamified your class and your strategies and what you did there? I know I'm intrigued about that, and there was a lot of other people that said that they were too.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. That was something that was kind of a plan in the making for a while. I'm good friends with Michael Matera, and if any of you are familiar with him, he's awesome, and if you're not familiar with him, get familiar, because he's just an incredibly inspiring person.
Agreed.
So I had a lot of conversations with him because I wanted to, I had this idea for how I wanted to gamify one of my 8th grade classes. In our discussion, I had three grades that I taught in middle school, but 4 classes in total. And as we talked, we kind of came up with the idea that wouldn't it be cool if all the classes were kind of connected in the same storyline that we would make, so it all kind of exists in the same type of game world? So that's kind of where the 6th grade class got gamified, because it was born out of that idea of we're going to connect all the classes. And I wanted to use that as a recruitment technique, because if things kind of connected all the way along, you know, it might be a thing that might get, you know, a couple more students to sign up for the classes in 7th and 8th grade. Because that was a struggle, because we became elective in business ed area in 7th and 8th grade. So getting students to come there, you know, once, you know, where we had those required before, last year we had to start fighting for kids to sign up. So that's where it started. And some of the big things that I really wanted to focus on, and I don't know, it looks like everybody else is kind of freezing up a little bit, so hopefully you're hearing me coming clear.
I am hearing you.
All right, some of the things I wanted to focus on, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. I wanted to focus on, number one, the kind of the authentic type of writing in terms of how can I get them to write and not it be drills. So I did a lot of blogging with them. And how I tied in the blogging was I had, let's see if I can dig up the spreadsheet here. I had a bunch of different topics that we'd go through, so we'd split our time roughly in half in 6th grade. We would have half the time we would work on drills or lessons or anything we need to do with that, or our timings. And then the other half of class, we would go into depth on some different topics. So I call them trials, kind of fitting into our little storyline. And then each trial had a certain amount of objectives they could complete. And you know, if I would have still been in that position this year, there certainly would have been some tweaks. But my whole goal was to set the first objective as kind of what I would have liked to see at like a B or an A level, and have that be kind of the completion. I'm kind of a fan of standards-based grading, so I was trying to mold after that. If they were to complete all the objectives, then I had badges for that. And it was just a way to provide some type of reward and stature. And the idea was that in the future, if they got certain badges in keyboarding, that if they took my 7th grade computer apps class, they could have some special privileges with that. So trying to kind of get at the larger scheme of things. The badges were all, I created them all in Google Drawing, and they were just kind of fun little rewards if they completed a lot. And I figured most students wouldn't be into it, but for the students that were, and if that's motivating for them, then I've got 4 or 5 students who are going above and beyond where maybe they wouldn't have had before. So to me, that's a win. So I don't want to spend too much time on the badges, but I just threw them together in Google Drawing. And like, here's an example of one of them, Mega Man, one of my favorite gaming characters of all time. And this was for if they completed all the objectives when we talked about computer hardware and things like that. So those things were pretty cool and motivating. And then I also used those rewards then, so a lot of these were attached to rewards, that allowed them special privileges in the classroom. So if I go back to this spreadsheet, kind of at the bottom here, I had these, what I called secret achievements. And those were if they got a certain amount of badges or did certain things in the classroom, then they would earn certain rewards that went with that. So I wouldn't reveal them ahead of time. I did have some hints on the class website. And then let's say if they got to 30 words a minute, which was our target for 6th grade, then they would get the option for, let's say, more options for, when they would have some free time and things like that. Probably the favorite reward they could earn was the ability to choose the music we listened to in class. So while they were having work time, I believe, I'm trying to think of what it was here, I think they had to have both, like type at least 35 words a minute and have perfect technique, and then they would earn that reward. And then they could every day tell me a song that they'd like to listen to, as long as it was appropriate, and then I would make a playlist, and then we'd listen to kind of the music that was their choice. And that was really motivating. Kids love that reward.
And you play that music while they're typing?
Yep, I always had music going while they were either working or typing. And I found that it just made the classroom environment a really nice place.
Cool.
Yeah, that's kind of the basics of it. And I also used it as a way, kind of included it in when I would talk about those top 10 type things. I also included their work on this in their top 10 because this is more content type stuff. Talking about how to like search the internet properly or internet safety, things like that. So I also wanted to make sure that that was kind of equally weighted to the keyboarding side of things as well. So when I would kind of go through the end of the year accolades or end of the term accolades and things like that, this would also get lumped into kind of how I determine who was our overall performer. And the whole idea was, they're in this kind of election type season, and based on all these different trials they go through, whoever comes out of them all would be the one that would be elected or something like that.
Cool. How did you distribute your badges?
Paper.
Okay.
Just based on feedback from other people who have gamified, they found that that was the most engaging way to use it because it was something physical that they could have on them. So that seemed to work well. I probably could have made a bigger deal out of them. This is the first time I had done it. But for the students that got them, they thought they were pretty cool. So it was a win in my book.
One of the things that we've got a 3D printer in our room, not in our room, but in our school, in our one of our labs, and they're always looking for projects that they can do. So I think what I'm going to have them do, because I'm going to try to gamify what you're doing next semester, what you did next semester or next quarter, and I'm going to have the 3D printer print out basically their those badges.
Nice.
Do them little awards or something like that. And maybe, no idea if it'll work, but we'll see. But I saw that on Google Plus the other day of having a 3D printer print out awards for kids. Oh, that would be awesome. Then it would also expose them to those Project Lead the Way classes once they get to high school too.
That's a really good idea. I like that.
So we'll see how that goes. We've got about 8 minutes left, folks. The only other thing that I wanted to talk about, and I haven't seen any questions on Google Plus from our viewers. I know there's viewers out there. I can see them out there. Is tablets, and tablets or iPads in the keyboarding classroom. If anybody's had an experience in working with them, or thoughts or things along those lines.
Well, the philosophy I always had, well, I wouldn't say I always had it, but that I started to kind of have towards the end of my time in Denmark, was for me, I think the biggest part of keyboarding, I find technique is important to an extent, is just finger dexterity. I mean, really that in the end, it's really a muscle thing, and that helping the students just increase their muscle capacity and how fast their fingers can move was a big part of it. And the other part is that kind of that memory part of it and just knowing where the keys are. So for me, I didn't make too much of a big deal out of tablet versus typing on a keyboard, but that understanding where the keys were is going to make you a faster typer on a tablet, no matter what, because it's the same arrangement. So even if on a tablet you can't really type home row, it doesn't work quite as well. Just knowing where the keys are is going to make you a faster typer on the touch screen because you won't spend so much time hunting around for where things are.
I got into a conversation with another person a while back, and I'll leave that person nameless, and they basically said, well, I don't understand why we have a keyboarding class. Why can't you just have the kids go into Typing Web or Typing Club and be done with it? What's the point? And I came back and I said a couple of things, but most importantly, my claim on that was it's my job to make sure that they are confident and able to use that technology or any technology without really having to think about it. Because when we get those kids to the upper level classes, I don't want to have them waste their time or slow down or that sort of thing to do our upper level assignments. It's my job at the lower level keyboarding to make sure that they are that they know what they need to know on any input device, so then we can focus on upper level processing once they get to those upper level classes. Absolutely.
And when you talk about good teaching, the best teaching happens in the moment while the kids are learning the task. And I would find it hard for teachers who are trying to make time to do some keyboarding in their classes without it being a separate class, that they're able to provide the level of feedback that in a pull-out keyboarding class that you're able to do. And when you provide that formative feedback in the moment, that's where the best learning happens, and that's what helps mold those skills, in my opinion. So, I mean, I always thought it was important. I've gotten into heated discussions about that, too, with people who kind of said, why are you having a keyboarding class? You know, you look at kids at the high school, they're not typing with the home row and stuff like that. And I don't know, I think there's great things that are still happening.
What's that, Danielle?
Today at lunch I had that conversation. I said that I was doing this after school, and they're all like, why, don't they have websites for that? And
they have websites for math too, but they still need math teachers.
Yeah. And so I was trying to explain to them why having a pull-out keyboarding class is important, and then it turned into a whole discussion about how far technology has come, and how our gifted and talented teacher, when she first got our school our first modem, how she was trying to explain to the principal why we needed a modem, and he said, oh, the internet's not going to go anywhere, we're not going to do anything with that. And look how far we've come. But I also said too, is I brought up, for years people kept saying that we were going to, everything was going to do, you know, Dragon Speak Easy or talk to text, and yet keyboards haven't gone anywhere. You know, it's the same thing, and anyone that's done any sort of talk to text, even just on their phone, realizes how much time it takes to go back and correct things, and how silly sometimes your phone thinks what you're trying to say. Like, it just comes out totally obscure. And that skill of knowing how to keyboard, knowing where those keys are, even if they are looking, but to be able to do it quickly, is something that's not going to go away.
From a business and industry perspective, we do see some businesses that are certainly looking at mobile technologies and ways that they integrate. But as we prepare our students for opportunities in business and industry across the state, the key is that that is an expectation of our employers, and I think that's important to remind people of, that our employers, our business and industry folks, and our post-secondary partners as well have that expectation that students are proficient with those keyboarding skills.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
I like to look at myself as a coach, and I teach my kids that we're training their brain, and you actually end up feeling like you're in a workout, and you go, you got to train your brain, you got to train your brain, you got to know where those keys are, don't look at your keys. You're constantly coaching them, and that's not something they can get off a website, and that's not something that other teachers have the time to do because their plates are full. So I think it's so important to have keyboarding offered as a separate thing, and let us take care of this, give them the skills that they can use in their classes.
Yes. Well, and I tell that too every time I have a new quarter, a new group of students starting, especially the 5th grade. I tell them that right now they're on the computer quite a bit as is, but next year when they get into middle school, they are on there all the time, and even more so in high school. And I tell them that when we have built up that muscle memory in our fingers, that we know how to key correctly and quickly, that we can spend more time actually working on our science project rather than putting our energy into keying. Or we can spend more time, on social studies or language arts or whatever it is. Our time is spent actually learning those things rather than, the putting the work into finding the keys.
I agree, especially as more schools go one-to-one. The
Yeah.
mobile devices, it only reinforces our need for what we do.
I even do a visual with the kids. I walk out my door and say, you know what, when you're learning your skills in the classroom, you're not just learning them and retaining them in the classroom. They are to be used as you walk out that door as well. In all of your other classes, in your work, in your job, wherever you do at home. But the lessons that they learn in the classroom from us don't end and stop right there.
Yes, my classroom teachers have been very helpful with that. They will give extra of our green tickets, our PBIS tickets and whatnot, or classroom rewards if they see their classes keyboarding with proper technique outside of keyboarding. So I've been very appreciative of those teachers who have backed me in what I do and making sure that those students are practicing those skills outside the room.
That is huge.
Yes. So they may not use the covers, but they certainly hold them to sitting up straight and wrists not resting and such. So
It's the little things.
yes.
Well, it's 5 o'clock, folks. Any parting comments here? I think we've had a very robust conversation here.
Guess I'd just like to remind the audience that's out there that the fall convention planning is well underway. Just to keep in mind that the conversation doesn't stop here today around keyboarding instruction, and again, you know, a lot of great suggestions. Some of the leaders that are here online with us today will hopefully be available for presenters in the fall, and encourage you to connect back with the Association for Business and Information Technology Educators, and as we come together, not just in the fall, but I know there's some other professional development opportunities that are out there as well. Just a last plug for spring updates. We do have a few registration deadlines coming up for Appleton and other locations. I know the Madison location has closed, but if you're still looking for some professional development opportunities this spring, in particular over the next couple of weeks, our spring updates are available. You can sign up through the WEBIT website.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Dave. I did have a badge for anybody that's watching, and I should have had that code ready for you. While I'm getting that code, I just want to again remind everybody that this is brought to you guys by WEBIT, the Wisconsin Business and Education, Wisconsin Educators of Business and Information Technology. Make sure you go to webitonline.org and sign up. We've got our fall convention that's coming up. We're going to be doing some great things that are going to be being introduced here pretty soon for February, so watch the listserv for that with career and technical education. And the Career and Technical Education Month, so watch out for that. There's some cool things happening there. We'll be sharing some new content via the listserv for twice a month on pro tips for WeBits, and the first couple are free, and then thereafter those will be in the members only section. And then last but not least, the keyboarding badge. So you get a badge for WeBit for attending and watching this today. The code is, are you ready? 25A-B, as in boy, EEE, that's 3 Edwards, dash A04. And I'll put that out on the Google Plus page, so if you've attended and watched this, then you'll get that claim code, and you can get your badge. And if you get a bunch of badges, well, then you know that you may be up for something really cool at the next year's convention and attendance. So.
And the deadline for those badges is the end of April, correct?
Yeah. So the student member, I guess you would say, the student member, college member that has the most badges, may be up for, I think it's a free membership or something, isn't it, guys?
That's correct.
Yeah, free membership just by collecting badges. So we're trying to model what we're doing and what we learned from Josh and badges, and give you guys some incentives there as well. So that's it. Thanks so much for attending, everybody, and have a great day. Again, go to webitonline.org for more information or to watch this broadcast again. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks, Kurt.